Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode, to another show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about my story. How I ended up in Mexico. How I ended up here, living here with this wonderful, awesome life that I have, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't want to just talk about how I ended up here in Mexico, but I kind of want to give a whole backstory, a whole story of my life, I guess, in a sense, because a lot of you guys have always wanted to know a little more, whether, just out of curiosity or what have you. I have a very full story. I'm not gonna lie. I've lived a crazy life, and an interesting life. Definitely not complaining. Very blessed, I feel, with the life I have had, but I feel it's also been a very hard and difficult life. And why not share it with you guys? It seems like the more I share, the more it seems to benefit and help you guys. And, I think, like I said, I'm only making this video because you guys want to make it. You guys want me to make it. You guys want me to tell you my story. You guys want to hear my story. And for those of you guys that don't, well, I hope you guys find some entertainment out of it. And the reason, again, I've been told this a good majority of my life. So I can't imagine now at this point in my life with all the things that have already happened and are going to continue to happen and so on and so forth. All right, so let's begin. Before I start going off on one of my rants, I might as well just start going on a rant on how I ended up here in Mexico. I'm making this video for many reasons. You'll be watching this at some point in September. I'm not quite sure when. My birthday is September 18th. I'm going to be turning 42 years old. Yeah, that's right. And I don't feel 42. I feel 32, most of the time. And so, this is, again, still kind of surreal, even having to just make a video talking about my full life. But anyways, let's just get into it, okay? So, from the very beginning, I was poor, all right? Bruh. From the very beginning, both of my parents, they were poor, working class. I was born in a trailer in Miami, Florida, Hialeah, Florida, to be exact. For anyone out there who's really, knows the area. So I was born in 1981, and I was born to, again, just two poor working class families, in the beginning of the 80s. You already know. For anyone that's lived or been through those times, you already know it was not the best of economic times per se. But regardless, I was raised through that, and through hard times. I had a childhood like most people, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to get too detailed here on everything, but look, long story short, by the time I was like around 13 years old, my parents, namely my dad, came across a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, how do I say this? Not came across one, but him and a few buddies, they were in the Florida Keys, which is, part of Florida down south. And, I don't know how they came about it per se, but, they got a restaurant, okay? I don't know. My dad got tired of, working for the man, and he just basically, got the opportunity to own a restaurant, and he owned the restaurant. So what did that mean? Well, that means that now we own the restaurant. So basically, since I was very young, as far as I could remember, around the age of like 11, 13, give or take, I was already working in a restaurant, in the family restaurant. And, because of many things, my dad, gave me a lot of responsibility. And at the very young age, of like, again, like around 13 years old, I was already doing, things like bookkeeping, minor stuff. I was already working, the cashier. I was already working the kitchen. I was already doing lots of things, going on trips to Miami, to help with the groceries for the restaurant. And, going to like the major markets and, buying things, in the major markets. So, I was already exposed to a lot of this stuff, in the restaurant industry since a very young age. And so that was my life, for the time being. And then, my dad got sick, with some weird heart disease. And, long story short, we had to sell the restaurant. We had to go back to Miami. And, being in Miami, all of a sudden, there was no restaurant or anything like that. But my cousins, shout out to my cousins out there, they, were in the photography and video industry. Well, actually, just the photography industry. And what do I mean? They would do wedding photography, 15s, quinceañeras. They would do, basically, if you've seen The Wedding Singer, yeah, my cousins were the photographers, okay, for all those events. Any event that you could think of, they were the photographers. And back then, it was still very, very, very early on when it came to VHS, camcorders, recording things. And so my dad had the bright idea. This again, very early on, in the 90s. And again, early 90s, mid 90s, my dad had the bright idea of, hey, have you thought about recording, things? Because my dad, was very early on. I got videos of, I wish I could show you, but of the 80s, of the 90s, very early on when camcorders were a thing. My dad bought one, and he was one of those dads that was recording everything. Thank God, because me and my sister have so much footage of our childhood. But because of that, because of all that, my dad was already kind of early on. And so when people were kind of first offering videos for weddings and parties and things like that, my dad was kind of like at the beginning, at the cusp of that. So yeah, not just my dad, but my cousins. So they started pushing that. And so I was around all that, because I was, in early high school, late middle school, early high school, and I was hanging around, my cousins, I was always hanging around my dad, so we went from the restaurant industry all the way now to, photography and videography. And it was cool because, all of a sudden, we were wearing, nice suits and going to do these nice professional jobs. And, we would go to the banquet hall and be behind the scenes, and I would see, and I would know how the restaurant kind of thing worked, but I would see it from a different angle now because now, I was, like a photographer or whatever. Anyways, I was exposed to all that, okay? So very early on, I was exposed to the restaurant industry, and I was exposed to, photography and videography and things like that. But as I was, going through my high school years, I was more like Ferris Bueller, where basically I got a lot of things done. I got all my grades, I got everything, but I really didn't do anything in high school except, have fun and enjoy life.
Bruh.
But the thing is like I realized, very early on, I was smarter than most of my teachers. My dad happened to be an educator back in Cuba before, moving to the United States. And so, he would just say, hey, look, do the homework you got to do in order to satisfy the indoctrination camp, aka school. But look, read these books and read other books on your own, and you figure out, what the reality is and what the history was. And he was more into history than anything else, but, it went for everything, history, science, whatever. He goes, never believe what anybody tells you, question everything, study it, go deeper. And so, I was a nerd with glasses. Even though I was a tough kid, growing up in a tough neighborhood and all that, I was a nerd deep down inside. So, from a very young age, I was educating myself. So, yeah, long story short, I graduated in like the top, 10% of my class, 15% of my class, something like that. So I got all kinds of scholarships to go to University of Florida, through, all kinds of, schools, out there, University of Florida, Florida State. I could go on. And, I had a future, I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. I could have been, any of these things, but I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to be a businessman, a professional. I don't know. I was always around things like, again, the photography, the kitchen, all these things. And I'm like, man, that's a fun life. It might not be a glamorous life, but that's a fun life. And I had, a lot of family members, that were, suit and tie, making money, living that life. And I was like, man, that's not a life. I was already kind of fully aware of that. Like, man, that 9 to 5, life, that whole, I don't know. It was just no life because, my dad, because of him being sick and having, no steady job, just because of him having to deal with, going to the hospital a lot and being a guinea pig for, the people that saved his life and all this other stuff. Again, I'll always, be thankful to the University of Miami, and all the people there that saved his life and allowed him to live even longer with a heart transplant. Again, my whole story is super deep. I'm just trying to be as quick as possible here because I know you guys want to really get to the meat and potatoes as how I got to Mexico. But I feel you guys want to know more about me than I've ever really talked about. So here we are. But yeah, long story short, I just never went down that route. You know what I mean? I was just like, man, I had the grades, the education, the knowledge, all the stuff to not just, be one of these things, but also know, maybe that's not what I want to do. So I was still in high school. I started working in the restaurant industry. Now, I worked other jobs. My first official job, where I had to pay taxes was a bag boy for Winn-Dixie supermarket. Okay, so let's just go far back. But by the time I was in high school, I was like, all right, I need something better than these jobs. So I went and I applied for Don Shula's Steakhouse, never thinking in a million years I would get the job. And sure enough, I got the job. It was a very high prestigious restaurant, and I already knew it came with a lot of perks and money, to be more than anything else, but also cool. Hey, I worked there. Coming out of high school, that whole thing. I mean, come on, that meant for a lot. So it was a cool job, and I couldn't believe I got there. And I started all the way at the bottom, bus boy. All right. Long story short, I made my way all the way through every single job. You know what I mean? All the way from busboy to waiter to bar back to bartender to I did everything front of the house. Okay. And then not only did I do everything front of the house, but then, one summer I was really dead at the bar, and the general manager, Steve, shout out to him out there, he came to me and he's like, hey, would you be interested in working in the kitchen? I'm like, well, I know a little bit, but I really don't know anything about working in the kitchen. I've never done that before. And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. It pays good. You want to? I need like an emergency, whatever. Like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. He goes, look, you get bored of it, don't worry, you'll come back to the bar. Famous last words. Anyways, long story short, I ended up working in the actual restaurant because I was working in a sports bar, and they had other restaurants, and so they took me to like the restaurant, and that restaurant was like Ruth Chris Steakhouse type of place. You know what I mean? Like a steakhouse. And all of a sudden, they threw me into the fire. And I was like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, before I knew it, I was, serving drinks, and making, a nice amount of money in tips, and, just having a nice, cool, relaxing job, serving drunks, And all of a sudden, I went from that to having a chef Mo, throwing potatoes at my head, and all of a sudden, I was, I had Chef Ramsay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chef Ramsay out there of, Hell's Kitchen fame and all that. Yeah, I was thrown right into that immediately. So I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And sure enough, eventually, you know what I mean? Again, it's a super long story, but eventually I made my way back into the kitchens, and I never looked back since. And I was a chef. I was a chef for my whole life. I was a cook, a chef. I worked behind the scenes. I've had the most glamorous of glamorous jobs, and I had the worst of worst jobs, okay? The worst, most embarrassing kitchen, jobs you could ever think of, and the most glamorous, amazing jobs you could ever think of. I've worked under some amazing chefs, and I worked under some not so amazing chefs, And I've had all kinds of stories that, like I said, at that point in my life, in my late 20s, I was already told by many I could write an autobiography, I could write a book. I had so many stories, and I had so much to tell already. You know what I mean? But that was only the beginning. Long story short, I had a lot of successes, but a lot of failures, and a lot of these failures, unfortunately, came about because of the 2007-8 crash. I lost my little business that I had. I lost all the, everything I had. And then not just that, but to the point where I had to get back into the, working again for somebody else. And, I was getting paid less than I was getting paid at my first ever job, where I was getting potatoes thrown at my head. And I had to bite that bullet, and I had to survive. And then I did survive, and I was trying to put up another business, a food truck to name, to get specific, and never panned out. It never worked because again, I already knew so much about the business where I was like, okay, I'm making sure I'm not going to get screwed at all. As bad as I want it, I can't get screwed. And I got to figure out a way, to make it happen. So I did, yada, yada, yada. And I can never find that partner and that other person that I needed to in order to be a success. I just had to. There was no other way. Financials, was just, something that, and so, but I needed a partner. And every partner wanted to have more control than me. And I'm like, no, you know what I mean? I'm the one that's bringing everything. And I didn't want to get into it. Long story short, it never happened, never panned out. And that was, again, like, over 10 years ago, and I was trying to redo Cuban food, Cuban cooking. I was trying to bring Cuban cooking to a higher level and trying to bring all that to another level. And it was at the very beginning of all that explosion, okay, of art and culture that has happened in Miami, because back when I was doing that, nobody was doing anything like that. And ever since I left Miami in the 10 years after that, my God, that's when you've heard everything about the Art Basel, everything that is Miami for real, that we know Miami today, has happened in the last 10 years. But, I was there during the nitty gritty, all right? I helped, put a lot of that foundation on there, and I was there back in the day. But it doesn't matter. It's not even about that. I look back at what's going on in Miami now, and I'm proud and I'm happy, but I'm also happy that I left. Now let's get into that, how I left Miami. So after many failures and no successes and everything just kind of, going, spinning their wheels, I said, I got two choices. I'm going to stay here kind of spinning my wheels and not really, and I had burned a lot of bridges up until that point. I had done a lot of damage up to that point, and I was like, man, I need a new and fresh start. And so my new and fresh start was, I rolled the dice and I figured, where am I going to go? And it was between, it was a lot of choices, and it was between it was between Las Vegas and Seattle. The reason I wanted to go to Seattle was because it was the complete opposite of everything I knew in Miami. All right. The pay was great, but again, it was just like the complete opposite. So, it was like worker rights. What is that? I never heard of that. Just things like that. So I was like, all right, let's, try that out. And then Las Vegas was because Las Vegas was just paying the maximum. And, I came from a place, the East Coast, where, I was going to get paid very well to go to Las Vegas and work out there because, I came from the trenches, And so, to me, it was like, what? I'm getting paid a little less in Seattle, but to me, it would be like moving to another planet, like another country. Moving to Vegas, that's just Miami in the desert. I'd rather be in Miami. You know what I mean? Forget that. But by the way, I ended up going to Vegas later on, and I was like, yeah, it was worse than that. Vegas is whatever. I'm not a fan, all right? I got nothing negative or bad to say about it, but I'm from Miami. I would rather have Miami. Miami's just better at everything Vegas does, except for one thing, the casinos. Other than that, whatever. So unless you're, a degenerate gambler, it's no problem with that either. Vegas ain't, Miami's better. But anyways, long story short, all right, I didn't mean to, sidetrack there. I ended up in Seattle, and holy crap, Seattle was awesome. It was amazing. It was great. It was great and it was bad, but I'm just going to focus on the awesome now. And so everything was great. Everything was new. It was awesome. It was wonderful. And I got exposed to just completely different everything. And all of a sudden, I was working in the kitchens out there, and I kind of came about with the same, problem that I was having back home. By the way, I apologize. It's starting to rain out there. We're in the middle of the rainy season out here, so hopefully it doesn't affect the audio too much out here. But long story short, let me see if I can kind of. All right, but yeah, long story short, at the end of the day, I ended up leaving the culinary industry out there. All right, because I was just burnt out. Okay, I don't want to get into all the details again. I see I'm running the time here. I see the timer. So, but long story short, out there, as most of you guys know, or if you don't know, I enjoy, smoking the herbs. And out there, the cannabis industry and all this other stuff, was, legalized. Everything was legal, was new, all these things. I was on the West Coast, in which all of these things, were just considered very different as opposed to on the East Coast. And so all of a sudden I was like, man, I found myself in the cannabis industry, kind of by accident. And I was like, holy crap, wait a minute. I mean, I needed a break from all the kitchen, all the restaurant stuff. I was already in my early 30s, and I was like, man, I was doing this for a very long time, and I was just burnt out from a very hard life. Everything from taking care of my family when I was very young, working in from a very young age, 13 and above, and just, very hard life. And so I'm skipping through a lot of things in my life, right? The death of my dad, at my early 20s, I could go on and on. So many things I'm skipping over. But, long story short, I ended up, in Seattle, and I ended up in the cannabis industry. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I was exposed to something else. And long story short, I was in that industry for a while, but, I figured out, hey, I love the product. I just don't love working in this industry. It's not for me. I was able to, do very well for myself in that industry because of the knowledge that I had, coming from the restaurant industry, coming from the East Coast, and so many things. I was able to help out so many people, and I did so much when it came to that industry that, I made some money. But then I realized also very quickly, oh wow, I finally got money for the first time in my life. Like real money, like throwaway money. Like who cares? And then really, you realize, man, money don't solve the problem. You know what I mean? People that say that money don't buy happiness are not shopping in the right places, okay? Money does buy happiness, but it doesn't buy satisfaction. It doesn't really buy happiness. It doesn't buy sustained happiness. It really doesn't, okay? Money doesn't do that, okay? Money is great and wonderful, and it solves problems, but it's just a tool and nothing but a tool. And I realized that then. I realized, oh, wait a minute. Money is great and wonderful. It gives me freedom. But other than that, that's it. You know what I mean? I just, it's not really, it's not what people think. It does not give you that happiness that people are looking for. So, all of a sudden I started, dealing with all that. I had to leave Seattle because the laws were changing out there, and what I was doing and helping people with, was not, viable anymore because of the law changes, and all of a sudden there was a monopoly out there with all that industry. So I left, and I just started traveling the country, just trying to see the country. Why? Because during my time, working in the cannabis industry, I had a lot of time to also educate myself, and that's when I started going down the rabbit hole, and I started educating myself on, I don't know, what's really going on in the world. And that's when I realized, oh, wait a minute, the U.S. might not be around for too much longer. So subconsciously I was like, you know what, I got time, I got some few bucks, I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. Let me just travel the country. So I would just travel the country. I was just driving around, just finding myself, not looking for anything in particular, but also looking at the country, knowing that, thinking to myself, I might not ever see this ever again in these conditions. And I got to see a lot of the country, and I got to see, oh wow, this problem that we're having with the economy, all these problems that we were having. By the way, this is like 2017. I was like, man, all these problems, are way worse. I mean, everywhere I went all over the country, it was pretty bad. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do, man, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was just, just kind of going back and forth with all these thoughts in my head. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was traveling through the wrong part of Texas, and as I was in my deep thoughts, I got pulled over, and some guy, some cop, some really corrupt cop in the middle of Texas, Childers, Texas to be exact, basically, pulled me over, arrested me, and I thought ruined my life. Well, how about this? Not ruined my life, but many people would think or say or whatever, oh my God, this ruined my life. But to me, when that happened and they put me in jail and that whole scenario and situation happened, I was like, and the first night I was in jail, I was already thinking to myself in my jail cell, kind of like my cousin Vinny, man, this is the change I needed. This is the kick in the ass I needed. And I don't know how this is all going to pan out, but I know that this is going to be the first night of the rest of my life, where I know I'm going to get out of this mess. And I don't know how I'm going to get out of this mess, but once I do, and as I do, this is, really going to be what's going to define a lot of things in my life. And it's what I needed. I don't know the direction. I just knew I needed something, some change, some whatever. Anyways, and, how I got arrested, again, I'll go through the whole story. Basically, I got pulled over. And when I got pulled over, this police officer, asked me to step out of my car. I didn't want to step out of my car, whatever. We went to the procedure. I freaking stepped out of the car, gave him my ID, gave him my whole thing, and he gave me a warning, okay? A warning. And I got all the evidence, it's all whatever. I don't really care. I don't got to prove anything to anybody. But he gave me a warning, okay, for, going over the yellow line, which, again, I don't know how the hell he could see and how that it's even a crime, but whatever. I got a warning for that, and I got dismissed. So as I'm walking back to my car and I'm literally about to get in my car, he says, hey, wait a minute, I got to search your car. And I was like, oh, hey, wait a minute. No. You should have done that. You should have said, even though it's illegal, you should have done that before giving me the warning. But since you gave me the warning and let me go, you let me go. So there's no judge in the world that's ever going to say, oh, he's suspicious. Well, if the judge is going to immediately say, well, if he was suspicious, then why didn't you search him to begin with or figure it out then? Why did you let him go? You know what I mean? What made you suspicious? Is him walking to the car? Yeah, no. So anyways, he was a deputy. He was a young punk rookie, and he came across the wrong guy. And basically, they're standing up for my rights. They called the whole police force of Childress, and finally it was giving me anxiety even talking about it, but finally the freaking police chief came about, and he's the one that ended up arresting me. And again, what was the arrest for? Resisting arrest. Because again, at the end of the day, they wanted to illegally search my car out of the blue after letting me go, and I was like, okay, where's the warrant? Where's the probable cause? Yada, yada, yada. Okay? So yeah, long story short, they arrested me. Once they arrested me, they searched my car. And obviously, they found stuff. I smoke. But when it was all said and done, that's not what they arrested me for. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what is even on the thing. It was, they didn't mark down all the weed that I had in the car. No, they marked down some cookies that were actually just cookies. And they say they had a controlled substance, and that was the thing. So resisting arrest, and then after resisting arrest and then searching the car, they found these cookies. And I honestly thought, when I was in jail, when I was going through all that, I was like, oh my God, they found, a lot of stuff in there, because I smoke a lot, and I was traveling and going, I don't know I was dumb and stupid, looking, oh my God, just even thinking back on that. Anyways, but look how corrupt these motherfucking cops were, that they were just trying to get some money and get me in the system and yada, yada, yada. And, long story short, it turned into a financial nightmare. And I was able to escape my freedom, and I was able to, through 3 lawyers, using a proxy. I'm not going to get into all the details, but a proxy means is that I never went back to Texas. I had a proxy, a pen, all right, act on my behalf, okay? Well, yeah, you could do that, okay? Yeah, okay? Act on my behalf, to stand in front of the judge. And yeah, long story short, they had to throw out the case, okay? Because I'm not going to play that game, all right? I'm not going to play no game. And I know my rights, and I know I didn't do anything illegal. They were the ones doing anything illegal, and I didn't have the money, all right, to really fight this to the end or fight back to get my money back, okay? So what ended up happening was that after dealing with all the stuff in Texas, I had to figure out what I was going to do. Go back to Miami and go back to that bullshit life, that I had. Or my friends that were in LA and Los Angeles, they were like, hey, come over here, crash on the couch. We got you, blah, 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 blah. Why? Because when I had money and I was doing my thing, I was helping everybody out. So guess what? I had my friends to help me out. And yeah, sure enough, I wasn't on the couch for longer than a few weeks, before I got, I found a place to live, and I was living with some roommates and living that life. But I was back all the way at the bottom, beyond the bottom. Again, if I missed a payment, I was already, they were going to send Dog the Bounty Hunter after me. I know I like to, over exaggerate a lot, but yeah, long story short, they were going to send someone to collect that money. All right. And that money was no bond or anything like that. It was just basically, fines and, all this other bullshit that, again, I don't want to get into all the intricacies, but I could have gotten all my money back if I had if I had enough money to pay a lawyer to fight to get all my money back. But in the meantime, I had to pay all these things, and if I didn't pay all these fines and these court costs, all this bullshit that they were making me pay, yeah, they could have, sent, and by the way, and I got, counsel from 3 different lawyers, and this is the case, they do this a lot. And so long story short, yeah, they could have sent somebody after me for non-payment. and then you really go through all the runger. So I was already at a point where my car was breaking down. I really could not survive in LA. My roommates were all moving back to Alabama. They couldn't hack it in LA. They couldn't do the LA dream. And I could not find an apartment or a place to live. I couldn't find anything. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I got to escape. I got to leave. You know what I mean? I got to disappear. You know what I mean? Like, or they're going to make me disappear. Meaning I'm going to be in a prison cell, or I'm going to be living on the street, or both, or out of my car, or, come on, there's no life to live. So then that's when I said, all right, I'm out. I wanted to leave the country at the moment that I got arrested and that whole deal. And I said, no, you know what I mean? Like, let me stay. My friends and family wanted me to stay. And I drained all my resources, trying to fix this problem. And long story short, you know what I mean? Like I said, I had $1,500 to my name. I could only fill a few bags with stuff because that's all I had. And I put my finger on the map and I came to Mexico, Merida, Mexico to be exact. And how I chose this place, like I said, there was a website out there that basically outlines, cost of living, country to country and city to city. And this happened to be one of the cheapest cities in Mexico at the time to live in. And so when, I looked and researched into it, I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's like a little small touristy town. This is great. Wonderful. Not dangerous at all. So I moved out here and the rest is history. You know what I mean? I moved out here, and once I moved out here, I was telling people my complete story through YouTube. Now, what was I doing in Los Angeles? You know what I mean? Before I moved out here, well, I was making YouTube videos. And what was I doing in Seattle before I moved out of Seattle? I was also making YouTube videos. I started making YouTube videos back in 2015. And how I got about that is because my artsy fartsy friends, one of my really good friends, shout out to Abe out there, shout out to you, brother, my brother from another mother. He basically was, finishing up school, and for his whatever project, his final project thing, he had to do some video stuff. And he was like, hey, bro, you ever worked with a camera? Do you know how to film? And I'm like, yeah, I've worked with a camera, thinking back to my days, And I was like, yeah, I got it, I know, I'm familiar. And long story short, I helped him with the project. And the minute that I was working with the camera and filming him and doing all that, I was like, I started falling in love with it again. I felt like a little kid, all right, literally 8 years old, playing with my Legos again. And I was like, wow, this is probably just, whatever, the moment. So we went back and I was like, hey, bro, can you show me how to edit? And he showed me how to edit. And all of a sudden, I knew how to edit faster and quicker and better than him. I was taking better footage than him. I was doing better work than him. And all of a sudden, he was like, damn, bro, you know what I mean? You're pretty good at this. And as I was editing, I was really playing with Legos. I was wow, I got the biggest crazy Lego set ever. And all these things. And so all of a sudden, I fell in love with making YouTube videos, all right? And but when I was making my YouTube videos, nobody's watching these videos. Nobody still watches these videos. These are my early videos on YouTube. They have 30 views, 40 views, under 100 views. In fact, the only videos that would really do good are my cooking videos. I had some recipes and stuff like that. But yeah, those are my early videos, and they weren't really that successful. So that's why when I was traveling around the country and, finding myself, I wasn't making any YouTube videos because I was kind of gave up on that too. I didn't think it was, I loved that, but, I was too busy in my thoughts to even give it any thought. So, with that being said, all of a sudden, when I got back to Seattle, when I got back to LA after losing everything and being all the way at the bottom and working, doing my stupid Uber job and just barely surviving, and this is before I had to leave LA. My good friend, Abe, said, hey, bro, you're driving me crazy with all this conspiracy talk and all these Bitcoin talk and all this stuff talk. Why don't you just put it on YouTube? And I was like, and we were drunk and, whatever. And I was like, hey, man, you're right, bro, you're right. And the next day I did my first YouTube video, and I never looked back since. Now, at first I was just making videos talking about, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and then talking about, what I thought about what was going on with the world, with the economy, my theories as to what I thought was going to happen and all this other stuff, yada, yada, yada. And those are the content. Those are videos I was making when I moved to Mexico. But when I moved here, all of a sudden I was encountered with this major change in my life, which is moving to another country. And I was like, my way to cope with things was to film things. So I just started filming my experience out here and filming how life was living out here. And those really started getting views. Those really started getting attention. That really started helping me pay the bills a little bit more. And I was like, well, let me just keep making these videos. So I started making those videos more and more, and I started making the crypto and the conspiracy videos a lot less and less. Why? Well, for many reasons, but the main reason is because we had the pandemic situation, and when that happened, well, guess what? As soon as that happened, a lot of the things that I was saying were coming true, and I found it like a moot point to even talk about these things anymore, and everybody was dealing with other things anyway. And so to me, I just concentrated on making more videos on living out here. And before I knew it, I kind of started losing my way making videos out here, because I was making videos about the weather. I was making videos about just dumb topics, just like, I'm sure a lot of these videos you guys find very useful, but the numbers don't lie. They were dumb topics, or topics that anyone can Google or find on themselves, and I didn't need to make a whole video on. But still, there was a lot of people that enjoyed these videos, and I enjoyed making them, until I didn't enjoy making them, because there was so many people that were reaching out to me, because I had such an open door policy that it became too much. So then all of a sudden I took a break, and bam, I started up again a few months ago, and I changed everything up again, and I decided to go a different route, when making videos and the content that I'm creating, as to now I am, kind of mixing it together, where I'm talking about the things that I used to talk about, because I feel like a lot more people are open to these topics where before they weren't. All right. And not just talking about these topics, but I'm seeing that a lot more people, want to know about these topics, because no one's talking about it. Because now when we're talking about Mexico content, all the content that people are making out here, you already know what it is. Okay. It's either fake news type things, or it's, the best taco stand in Mexico or whatever, which is great. That's fine, I guess. But I'm providing more real, detailed, on-the-ground content that a lot of you guys are, enjoying, and I'm enjoying making and providing for you guys, especially now going down this route. But, again, guys, look at this. It's almost 40 minutes, or, give or take. I don't know how many minutes I've been recording. Kind of, sort of. I got like a mini timer there. But look at how much I've already talked to you guys about and told you guys about. And I haven't even mentioned Lambo, the horse. Bruh. You guys are probably wondering, what the hell? Where'd this guy come from, right? What's up with that horse, huh? Well, how he came about is because when I was first out here in Mexico, and my first few months in Mexico, and I was still making a lot of the, crypto content and doing live streams out of my, bachelor pad apartment. Well, guess what? When I was doing all that, I, found this guy one day, they was just thrown out in the trash. I guess somebody had a party and they just threw him out with the trash, and I brought him in, and he became part of the show. And long story short, he's kind of like a running gag. He's kind of like a running joke, or a running, running character, a returning character in this show, this movie, this thing that you're watching, which is my life. Because if you really, really want to know a lot of what's been happening to me since 2015, all you got to do is go back on YouTube, on my original channel. You can find everything on my website, and go to my first videos ever and just watch my whole, process and my whole story all the way to here. Like I said, I can fill books. I can fill, a lot more hours, if I really, really, really want to get detailed with my full story. And I do, but again, I can only make these videos so long, and I only have so much footage as well. Let's not forget. But the reality is that, once I got to Mexico, once I really got to Mexico, which I feel like this is the most important thing to you guys. When I got to Mexico, I was like a lot of you guys, where, I was just a dumb American, dumb gringo, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. Sí, yo hablo español, y como hablo español, yo no tengo ningún problema, porque yo me puedo comunicar y puedo hablar y estoy todo bien. What did I say there? In my fast Cuban Spanish, I was basically saying, yeah, you guys are right. I do speak Spanish, and I was able to communicate in Spanish, and I was able to, get things done in Spanish, and kind of like, have a little bit more of an advantage than the typical person that comes out here that doesn't know any Spanish. But long story short, my Spanish is not their Spanish. I'm a foreigner just like everybody else. And as soon as I told them I was from Miami, or Cuban, That's it. You know what I mean? They're treating you like, either the worse or the same, as they treat you guys. So that was a big learning curve. And it wasn't until I started learning how they speak and learning a little bit more about their culture and learning more about what's up out here that I, was able to assimilate a little more. But at the end of the day, let's not forget, what made me really fall in love with Mexico and Merida and this whole area, but mainly just Mexico, was the fact that as soon as I moved out here, my God, everything that I had been searching for and looking for my whole life, and even, when I was driving around the country aimlessly, before I got arrested, I found it out here. I found it out here because, again, I was raised in Miami, and there's a lot of Latin culture, a lot of Hispanic, culture, and a lot of things that are not part of the rest of the American culture, but it was still American, it was still the U.S. And so there was just things that I never found like I fit in no matter where I was in the U.S. And it was not until I moved to Mexico where all of a sudden, I guess the only other place I felt like I fit in a little bit was L.A., believe it or not, because it was a bunch of people that didn't fit in. But other than that, the real place that I really did fit in, or I felt like I fit in, was out here in Mexico, because they actually accepted me for me, believe it or not. And there's a lot of people that do not agree with anything, that I am or what I'm about or anything like that, but they still, like respect me to the point where, they're not going to be, telling me how to live my life. And so to me, it was a very welcome change, because to me it's like, all the things that I loved about Latino and Latin culture were here. And then, all the things that I hate were also here, you know what I mean? But there's not many things that I hated. The reality is that most of the things that I love about, life in general were Latino things, which is, a lot of, family is first. And what do I mean by family first? You know what I mean? Like, you take care of you and your family and your community and all this other stuff. Like, me and my sister are on two opposite ends of the spectrum. But we respect each other and love each other to the point where she's not telling me how to live my life. I'm not telling her how to live her life. Sure, we talk about suggestions, you know what I mean? But ultimately, we don't get mad at each other for the decisions that we end up making. And, it's just so many things. I mean, I could go on and on, but just something about the warmth and the love and, just seeing so many people like actually in love, actually, with families, for example, in the U.S., you might see suicide, and then a lot of that suicide might be simply because of financial problems. Out here, it's because of lovers' quarrels, because they love so hard. Again, I know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get morbid all of a sudden at the end there, but you know what I'm saying. It's a very different culture. One that all of a sudden, once I was exposed to it, like 100,000%, because I lived here, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is where I belong. This is how I'm supposed to live. And then before I knew it, I came across Christian, my wife, all right? We ended up getting married, and I've never been happier ever since, Not only do I have a horse that I adopted, single here, but, I married the most amazing, perfect wife I could have ever dreamed of. And she came with Gizmo, the most amazing dog ever, all right? He has his good and bad days, but for the most part... He's a good guy. He's a good dog. And, everything that came with it, the whole package, where I remember she would say, like, oh, if you're going to be with me, you're going to take the whole package. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't have, and now, again, looking back on it, and, even from the whole time, I was like, I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's just like everything about it. And so this might not be for everybody, man. That's why a lot of people, they come out here and they just don't blend in, or they just never, kind of mesh with the culture out here, because it's not part of really who they are. For me, I never felt more at home, ever since I've been here. The more I explore Mexico, the more I feel at home. And it's not just Mexico, Latin America, and everything that has to do with that. So this is my own personal story. But, this has been a very long-winded video, and I went all over the place. And, maybe later on I'll keep making follow-ups to this video. And maybe more in the future, I'll write a book and I'll keep going and going. But, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and know a little bit more about me and my background and my story. I know. You don't have to tell me that. I did not spend that much time on how I ended up here in Mexico. But, again, long story short, it was either I ended up living on the street, or in my car, all right, being chased down by people that needed their money or they were going to put me in jail or worse. And to no fault of my own, because again, a lot of people are found in this same position, whether they're going through a divorce, whether they got arrested by the wrong guy on the wrong day. And I can go on and on. All the situations that a lot of people have found themselves in to no fault of their own, and they're trying to better their own life, and they can't better their own life, so they have to go to the extreme of moving to another country. So I had to do that, and that's what prompted me to move out here, because just like you, I thought about it a zillion times. But when I really had no other choice, meaning that the best choice was, again, I was like, you know what, I'll take my chances with living on the streets in Mexico, or, trying to pay bills in Mexico than trying to pay bills in the USA, long story short. And sure enough, with a lot of work, a lot of hustle, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of everything, I have been able to build something out here for myself in a very short time, because a lot of people think that I've been here for a long time. I haven't. I got here in June of 2018. And right now, you're watching this in September of 2022. So that's like 4 years and a few months. And I came out here on a tourist visa with nothing, literally zilch. And again, that was enough for me to be sitting here, 4 years later, with my permanent residency. Okay. Yeah, I got it through marriage. But again, you guys know my story. I was out here, on a tourist visa. I didn't have any money or any kind of resources in order to renew that tourist visa. So I was here on a 6-month expired visa, or longer. I don't know how long. It was a long time. And then, in order for me to get my residency, I was dating Christian. Everything was going great. I offered her to, hey, want to get married? And she said, yeah, I want to get married, but only if you love me. I don't want to do it for papers or anything like that. I want to do it for because you love me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, let's do it. And so we did it, and it was awesome. It was like like I said, the best decision I ever made, was marrying her out here. My God, so yeah, long story short, the best decision I ever made was coming out here and then finding her, to marry and stuff like that. It all just happened. And maybe that was the reason I had to come out here. But yeah, long story short, that's how I ended up, getting my residency. So that's why I have no qualms talking about it. I got no whatever hesitancy talking about it, because yeah, I got my permanent residency through marriage. But like I said, I went down the route of like a business ordeal. Hey, let's do this like a business transaction, because you can do that. And a lot of people do that, and it's very easy. Because again, when I went to immigration to get all my papers, she didn't even go with me. All right, I got my residency without her even showing up. I just had to show up with my marriage license. But long story short, not only did I come out here on a tourist visa, but I had a expired tourist visa. I went to Cuba to renew my tourist visa in Mexico, and with all that, I ended up getting married soon after and got my paperwork again. I got my permanent residency in under 4 years. All right. So through marriage, through family. All right. So, and we could talk on and on, but I've already gone over my timer. So hopefully you're not seeing any repeat footage, but if you are, you already know why. So guys, you already know what's up. If you enjoy this kind of content, if you got any value out of it, whether entertainment, knowledge, info, not just this video or any content or anything on my website or on my actual YouTube page or any of my videos or anything like that, and you want to help the cause, you already know what's up. This is my job. This is what I do for a living. Okay, you could be a digital nomad, but I'm a YouTuber. I help people, with all kinds of things, and I help you not just with free knowledge, and that's how you end up helping me, by making a quick little donation down there, or a quick contribution on there, whether it's $1 or $5 or whatever it is. But some of you guys go as far as even contracting me for a Zoom consultation or a personal consultation. I do those sometimes. I do all of those, again, for a fee. And if you ever need real help, like you need lawyers, you need assistants, you need whatever, again, on my website, I got a full list of people that can help you from anything to get glasses, to go to a dentist, to, again, a lawyer or an assistant to help you with immigration, to help you with anything, and others, on so many other resources down there, and then some, okay? Real estate, whatever. You guys are like, how do I find the deals? How do I find, the real deals on how to, move out here and all that stuff? All that can be found down below, and then some. So guys, you already know the deal. If you like and enjoy this content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit that bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.